all animals are equal, very much so, But, ultimately, pigs kind of got to stick with pigs,
I really want to start with congratulations on your movie. I know you've been working or thinking about this since you were like right out of the womb. So I'm so happy to be here to help you promote it at Annecy.
Thank you.
I'm really happy for you. Before we jump into Animal Farm, I do have to ask you just a few quick things.
Sure.
Are you, as you know, Andor is one of my all-time favorite shows of the last few years. Are you a little sad you weren't in season 2? Or are you sort of like, it's actually best for the character?
I ultimately think it's best for the character. I mean, it was such a great arc, and it had a very, very definite and heroic conclusion. So I think in many ways to go back would be difficult, because it has left a mark. People. I was so surprised at how emotionally effective that character was, actually, and so I think it's way better that we leave him in Narkina 5, on his own.
Have you been watching season 2?
I haven't had the chance. I've heard it's incredible.
I got to tell you, man, it's a masterpiece.
Is it?
It's really unbelievable.
Is it more of a masterpiece than the first one?
Well, because you're in season 1, season 1 is better. But if you weren't here, I'd say season 2 is pretty fucking epic.
Oh yeah, I've heard it's incredible.
It's really unbelievable. But have you noticed more people talking to you about the show? Because season 2 seems like it's even more popular.
Yep. No, I mean, I've been this year. I've actually done a bunch of conventions, and it's everyone wants to talk about about Andor. It's remarkable how much it's affected people, which is great. It's such a beautiful piece of writing, such a beautiful conceit, and Tony Gilroy and all the directors that worked on those episodes were just. They just cut something brilliant. It's awesome.
Well, I want to actually connect Andor to Animal Farm.
Okay.
Because both deal with fascism, and there's very similar things that run through both pieces of writing.
Absolutely.
And so can you sort of touch on that a little bit if you don't mind?
Well, I mean, it's Tony Gilroy. I remember having a very long conversation with Tony about the fact that what was his motivation for even starting on Andor? And he said, I want to write about fascism. I want to write about authoritarianism, and I want to do it within a realm that you can have that double thing of an emotional story, characters you really care about, a franchise that speaks to a massive audience, and use that to explore really important themes. And of course, that's exactly what Orwell was doing, and in a language that was going to appeal to all ages, and particularly speak to young people without patronizing them. Making them feel about the characters and understand them emotionally, but also allow the older members of the audiences to see and feel understand the satire.
Yeah, one of the things I want to just touch on real quick, your history with Animal Farm. I know this is something you've been very passionate about, and I think you tried to make this back in like 2013 or something.
Yeah.
Just touch briefly, if you don't mind, just touch on your history with it and why it's been so important to you to bring this story to movie screens.
Well, I mean, it was one of the very first books that the young adult books that I read. I remember vividly sitting on a bus going to school and reading it and being deeply affected by it, and not really fully understanding why, but just the sense of injustice, the sense of mistruth that these innocent characters were completely having piled on them time after time, and what their original version for a utopic kind of existence being flattened. And I just remember the injustice of that being it really affected me. And then, characters like Boxer, of course, beautiful, noble character that gives his life for something that he's for a belief system that's been turned on its head, and that lived with me, and so alongside, weirdly, the Hobbit and Animal Farm were two books that I read pretty much at the same time, and those two stories obviously have followed, really impacted me enough to follow me around for most of my life. So that then led to. I saw a production of it at the National Theatre, a stage production of it, and I thought, gosh, this is such a powerful story. It really does work as a visual piece. obviously, then I went to university and eventually became an actor. But it always stuck with me that one day I'd like to tell this story, perhaps as a theatre piece. And then when we were doing, if you jump forward a bunch of years, and I'm making Rise of the Planet of the Apes, and there's the sequence where they break out of the facility, and I suddenly realised here's Caesar leading this disparate group of apes. And it was like a real moment of realization that there hadn't been a new version of Animal Farm for such a long time, a screen version of Animal Farm, and therefore let's try and get that going. And that was at the time that Jonathan and Cavendish and I were starting to form the Imaginarium, and we just thought, let's do it. So we contacted the Orwell estate. At that point, the book was still not in the public domain. Weirdly, because we've been working on it for so long, it became in the public domain. But we decided that we'd go for it, and we were going to do a live action motion captured version of it, and then it found its way gradually to Anaventure, who we had a lot of problems. I mean, there were a lot of people we went to with it liked the idea of it, but were frightened of it because of the political messaging and, is it a 4-quadrant movie, et cetera, who's it for? And it took years to find the partners that we did eventually, which was Anaventure and Cinesight, and by then we decided not to make it a motion captured kind of real, live action movie, but an animation, and that really freed us up to tell the story that we wanted to, tonally, in the way that we wanted to do it.
Yeah, I think I remember talking to you about you saying you wanted to do it motion capture.
Yeah.
We've been talking about it for a while, but look, I think that this film is, especially with, it's just disturbing to me that what he wrote about back in the 40s is as relevant as ever. And I think that some of the changes you made from the book to the screen, I think, opened the door for maybe a younger audience to see it and to be hopefully impacted by it. Can you sort of talk about why you wanted to do certain changes from the book for your version of the movie?
Sure. So crucially, the book doesn't have a central protagonist, a central character. And for a movie, you kind of have to, really. I mean, to allow the audience to travel the journey with a particular character, so that you get to feel and experience it through their eyes. Now, later on in the book, in the last quarter of the book, there are references to the next generation of pigs who have been brought up, a long time down the line. The revolution was years ago. Nobody can really remember it, but the pigs are now the elite. And I just suddenly thought, this is a really interesting place to start. What if we start with, and it talks about the young piglets who are walking around, and they are the next generation. And I thought, this is what I think this is the place to start. Have a piglet who has been through, or kind of understands that they are sort of more intelligent to a certain extent, but actually make him, all his best friends, i.e. Boxer and all of the other animals, make him connect with them, be best friends, and not see differences between them. And so that was the point. So Lucky, we called him, because he is lucky. Crucially, I had this idea that he should be best friends with Boxer, and that it should be seen through his eyes. And it was almost like a Bronx Tale story, in the sense that Snowball and Napoleon, the two pigs who differ hugely in their ideologies. Snowball do the right thing, working for the community, working for the greater good, and Napoleon, obviously, who's just self-centered and wants everything for himself. And to have Lucky be caught between these two opposing forces as the rebellion is happening, and that was, and by doing that, we allow kids particularly to go through and ask this question, what's happening here? I feel like they're doing the right thing. I feel like Lucky's doing the right thing. And then he gets to a point where he has been corrupted so badly and he can't see it. And I think by giving kids that kind of moral dilemma, I think it really sort of gave it it underpinned it without having to be too, messagey about the politics, really.
Yeah, how long before Trump bans your film? I'm joking around. Sort of.
Well,
Not really.
No, but I mean, the thing is, this book is
There's
80.
someone off screen who's just shaking their head. You know?
But
Sorry, go on.
no. Look, the fact of the matter is, this book is 80 years old, and history repeats itself time and time again.
And by the way, how many people have tried to ban the book?
Right.
It's just like because people in power don't want this story being told.
No, because it is innocent, and that's the point. It can speak to a vast audience, like Andor. You know, it can completely reach out to so many people and get them thinking. And that was the absolute central kind of inspiration for writing the book. It's how do you begin a dialogue in whatever era that you're born in, where there is authoritarianism or totalitarianism or fascism or whatever the regime is. How do you get young people to engage with it? Or, you know, when their parents are afraid. Parents are afraid to speak out or think differently or try and confront it. So this is why we made the film. And it's not, and as I said in my opening night speech last night, and I really mean it, we've not made this film with any algorithm in mind. It's not to fit any audience specifically. It is to open questions in an entertaining way.
I just want to point out how far America has fallen. And I'm American, and I'm embarrassed. And when back in the day, the CIA, I read, was like the first people to finance a version of Animal Farm. And now you think about our government, and they wouldn't, like, in a million years, they wouldn't want people thinking like this. No, you know, it's crazy.
Absolutely. I mean, it's obviously when Orwell wrote it, it was specific characters that he was writing about: Lenin, Trotsky, Stalin. He was, the church, the state, the dogs were the Stasi. It was like he was very specific about what those characters represented. Now, we can't revisit that particular moment in history, but what we can do is keep the book and the movie alive by making it feel relevant politically. And now this is not geared towards anyone specifically. We're living in a world where there is, multiple regimes worldwide, as we know, who are oppressing people. And so it has an international language to it. And that's again, you can do it we've always said that we wanted to smuggle the politics in. We never wanted to hit people over the head with it. We'd want them to mostly emotionally engage with the characters and be moved by it and be made to laugh by it, because there is a lot of humor in it, and there's some brilliant performances. Comedic performances from Seth and Woody. And,
I haven't even opened the voice. Like, believe me, like Seth's performance and against what he normally plays, I could single out all these voice. Everyone did such great work, but I do think that it's great that you're part of two things that are just talking about Andor and Animal Farm, that both have, just opening your eyes to what's going on. But listen, I'm almost out of time, and I apologize, but people at Collider are very excited about a certain, movie you might be directing.
What might that be?
I don't know. I think that, there's a character you played in the past.
What was he?
Exactly.
Dobby. No.
It was Dolby. It was Dolby Vision. But being serious, before I run out of time, for fans,
yes,
what can you tease people about in terms of how it's going, when you might start shooting,
sure,
all that kind of stuff?
Well, we're very early on in the process. We've been talking about the film over the course of the last year. We are about to start a period of prep in the next few months or so. We will be shooting in the early to mid part of next year, I guess, and then it'll be as long as it takes to shoot, which it will be, it's a sizable movie, and all ready for a December 27 release, which I'm incredibly excited to go back and work with my friends and family in New Zealand and actually do something which is, I think going to be surprising and yet very much part of the lore and the feel of the trilogy, and the sensibility of it will feel, I think, close to that, and yet we're investigating in greater depth the character formerly known as Smeagol, but mostly known as Gollum.
My last thing, because I'm out of time. So you're filming in New Zealand?
Yeah.
And my other thing is, how far along is the script? Are you guys still working on it? Or
Yeah, we're still working. We're at very sort of relatively early stages, but it's getting very exciting.
I'm going to stop there, and I'm just going to say congrats on the movie. I'm really happy you made it. Material like this needs to be seen and absorbed, and congrats.
Thank you. Thanks, Stephen. Thanks for being so supportive.